It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the San Jose Sharks broadcaster, Randy Hahn. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Brandon. Good to be on your program.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
Well, it was kind of a gradual process. I was very lucky when I was 15 years old. I got a job at a small little radio station part-time behind the scenes. And then I got to be a DJ, spinning records and reading the weather and things like that. And then later on, when I was going to college, I got a chance to work at a sports radio station in Vancouver and started covering hockey and soccer and all the other sports. And I guess that's when I got the bug.
What was it like getting your first broadcasting job?
My first broadcasting job was very exciting because I was still going to high school. So it was fun to be able to work on the radio in my hometown. And my classmates would listen to that radio station. They could hear me talking and playing music. They would phone me for requests. And I guess back then, when you're 15, you kind of feel like a little bit of a small town celebrity. So it was very exciting.
What was it like working with San Diego Sox?
The San Diego Sockers were a very successful indoor soccer franchise. And that was when I moved from Canada to the US in 1982 to do their play-by-play broadcasts on radio and television. I was there for 10 years, and the San Diego Sockers were a dynasty. They won the championship 9 times in those 10 years. So I have 9 championship rings from back in those days. And it was really where I got to learn how to be a good play-by-play announcer. It was a great experience. Plus, if you've ever been there, San Diego is a wonderful place to live.
What was it like going to Chicago to be a broadcaster for hockey and basketball?
That was great. I moved there. My wife at the time took a job in Chicago. So I was actually doing that in Chicago, working on college broadcasts on Sports Channel Chicago, women's college basketball, men's college baseball, gymnastics, anchoring in the studio, doing Chicago White Sox and Blackhawks pre and post game shows. So it gave me exposure to a lot of different sports, and I had never done basketball before, so that was fun to do.
What was it like getting the opportunity to broadcast for FIFA Women's World Cup?
Now, that was a great opportunity. At the time, I was doing the Men's World Cup team, the men's national soccer team, Team USA. In 1990, I had done the World Cup for TNT Sports. And the next year, 1991, was the first Women's World Cup. They didn't call it the World Cup then. They called it what you described it as, the FIFA Women's World Championships. It was in China. And I went over there for about 5 days and did the semifinal and final games. It was my first time traveling to Asia. So that was exciting. And it was a real spectacle and a great opportunity. And Brandi Chastain was a young teenage player on that team. And of course, she would become a superstar in women's soccer a number of years later.
What was it like getting into the NHL to be a broadcaster?
Well, it's a real privilege. There's only 32 television jobs in the NHL, and they don't turn over very often. The people who get them tend to like to keep them for a long time. And I'm in that category. This is my 31st year of doing the Sharks, but I had been working, dabbling working in the NHL with the Vancouver Canucks broadcasts and Edmonton Oilers broadcasts. But then in 1989, I was hired by the Los Angeles Kings to do their pre-game show on television when Wayne Gretzky was with the Kings. And that kind of really launched my hockey career. And then later on, I would become the announcer for the Sharks once they came into the league.
What was it like broadcasting Wayne Gretzky's games?
It was tremendous. He was at that time the best player in the world. In my opinion, he's the best player that's ever played the game of hockey. It's awfully hard to compare him to a different era like Gordie Howe's era or Bobby Orr's era, but Wayne thought the game in a way that no one else did, and he did the unexpected. He shattered all the records. I was able to broadcast some of his games when I was working in Edmonton. And then when I went to Los Angeles, I was there when he was there. And then when I moved on to the Sharks, of course, we would play against the Kings and later the Rangers when he was with them. And my career kind of was very lucky in that I got to follow Wayne Gretzky for a big part of it.
What was it like in '91 getting to be a part of the San Jose Sharks broadcasting team?
Well, it was great. I worked with an organization called Pro Hockey San Jose, and we were actually the group that first started the idea of bringing to the NHL to San Jose and to the new San Jose Arena. And then when they came in 1991, 92, I was able to work on the broadcasts and was there for the opening night at the old Cow Palace in 1991. And it was a dream come true. And here I am today still doing the same job.
Can you talk about, of course, the Pro Hockey San Jose nonprofit that you started?
Well, what we tried to do was attract interest in the fans in the San Jose and Greater Bay Area in hockey, because there was no NHL team at that time in our area. And at the same time, we were trying to promote the idea of the games being played in the new San Jose Arena downtown. And we were hoping that owners out there somewhere who had enough money would be interested in applying for an expansion franchise and bringing a team to San Jose. That owner turned out to be George Gund, and he indeed brought an NHL team to San Jose. They decided to call it the Sharks, and I was lucky enough to be able to work with them from year one.
How has it been like for 30 years covering Shark games?
It's a great job. It's the dream job for many people. There's, as I said, just a limited number of positions. It's very exciting. I call each hockey season a soap opera wrapped up in a roller coaster ride, because it's a long 82 game grind. There's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be drama. There's going to be excitement. There's going to be disappointment. There's going to be winning streaks, losing streaks, and it all, it all happens over about a 6-month span. So it's always very exciting. Whenever you go to work, you never know what's going to happen. It could be just another run-of-the-mill game, or you could see hockey history, and a record could be set that's never been set before. So it's always unpredictable, and it's a great job.
What are some of your favorite catchphrases and famous catchphrases that you use during the game?
I don't do that. I tend to just try and be natural, and I don't have a particular catchphrase. I know some broadcasters do. I just call it the way I see it, and whatever comes out, comes out. So I'm not really known for having catchphrases. That's not my thing.
What is a typical game day like for you covering, obviously, the NHL broadcasts?
Well, on game day, I'm usually at the rink by about 10 a.m. for the morning practice. You watch both teams, you talk to the coaches, you talk to the players, gather information. Then I'll come back home and integrate anything new into what I've already been preparing for that day, because it takes more than just one day to get ready for a game. I'll try and rest a little bit and get some exercise, and then I'm usually back at the arena again by about 4:30 for a 7:30 game. We do the game at 7:30. That usually goes to about 10 o'clock, and hopefully by about 11 p.m. I'm home. So it's a full day.
What is it like calling over 1,000 games since 2019?
Well, I'm actually at 1,900 now, so I'm almost at 2,000. It seems like a lot of games, and I guess it is. It's more games than any player has ever played in the NHL. It's taken 30 years to get up to that number. And at some point, if all goes well, I'll get to 2,000 games next year. It's, as I said, a great job, and it's probably the only job I'll have for the rest of my working life, which will be a few more years at least. I haven't really decided when I'm going to step down yet, but it's a lot of history, and it's exciting to have been involved in every season that the Sharks have played.
What's it like being a part of the NHL 2K and having your voice with the Sharks in the game?
Yes, I was fortunate to do a number of video games, the NHL 2K series with my broadcast partner, Drew Remenda. I've done FIFA soccer. I've done about 4 or 5 different video games over the years. It's very time consuming, might be less now, but back when I did the games 10, 15 years ago, it would take a long, long time, a lot of hours of recording to get enough recorded to actually have the video game complete. So it's hard work and it takes a long time, but it's satisfying in the end because in my instance, my young sons at the time were able to play a video game with their friends with their dad's voice on it. And that was probably the best thing that came out of it.
That's so amazing. What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before broadcasting in the NHL and in
Oh
professional
boy.
sports?
So many different things, we all learn as we go through our working lives and just maturing as people. I think that you learn, number one, to let everyone do their own jobs and just worry about your own job. Stay in your lane, as they say. You learn a lot about that. You learn how important preparation is, but you also learn how important it is to rest. And you also learn patience. That's perhaps the toughest thing to learn. We want things on demand and we want things to happen quickly and correctly. And sometimes you have to be patient. So I've learned that. And I've also learned that for the most part, over the 30 plus years that I've been broadcasting hockey and other sports, that for the most part, 99% of the athletes that I've dealt with over the years have all been wonderful people. And sometimes they're made out to be selfish or, not to be the greatest people, but the athletes I've met over the years have all been tremendous.
Of course, coming off of last year with COVID and you being the only person in the stadium, what was that like for you? And now this year, having fans back in stadium, how does that feel to have that back?
Well, last year was very unusual to sit in, an arena that holds almost 18,000 people and to have two teams playing, but absolutely no one there to cheer. During some of the games, when a goal was scored, and, I can be loud when I do my goal call because there was no one in the arena. The players on the ice could actually hear me. And they would look up at me when I was, he shoots, he scores. And, it's something they would have never heard before because there would have been a crowd roaring. So it was weird. But this year we've got full crowd again. And there's nothing like the atmosphere, the smell of the hot dogs, the sound of the fans cheering, all of the things that go into making a live sporting event what it is. We all missed it and we're glad it's back.
How is it like feeding off of the crowd when you're broadcasting?
It's very important. And where my broadcast location is, I'm actually right in the crowd. It would kind of be like if a baseball broadcast was in the bleachers at Wrigley Field, for example, which they've done before in the past. You're surrounded by the fans. You feel their emotion. You hear the roar of the crowd. Sometimes feel the disappointment when things don't go your way. And during the intermissions, you get to mingle with the fans. They often come up and want to talk or take a picture. And that's a great part of the job as well. You get to meet a lot of people and you both have something in common when you even meet a stranger, and that's that you both love hockey.
What advice would you give people looking to become broadcasters in the NHL and in professional sports?
Well, I would say first, do your best to get as much education as you can. And it doesn't have to be broadcast education, just a good, solid education. And if that can be a 4-year degree, that would be great as well. And I would also say that if you want to be a play-by-play announcer, then I would practice. Record games on your TV, turn the sound down and pretend you're calling the game. Make your notes, do the preparation that you would guess would have to be done in order to describe a game. And if you do it alone in your bedroom or your office or whatever, just run that video and start practicing so that the words start coming out of your mouth. You can imagine what it would take to do, but until you actually say the words and start doing it repetitively, you don't really know what it takes. And that's what you have to do. Like most jobs, it's about repetition. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So the sooner you can start doing it, and even if that's just in the privacy of your own home, before you get a job in broadcasting, it's important to start the process. And when you're in college, if that's where you go, look for opportunities there. Many colleges have radio stations, some even TV stations, and they allow students to participate in the broadcasts.
That's wonderful. What is your call whenever the San Jose Sharks win?
It's not a signature call again, but it varies. If the game, we had a recent game with the Sharks won 5-0 against Montreal. I'm not going to be screaming at the end of that game because the outcome was determined sometime earlier. That's kind of like a blowout. But then we had a playoff game 3 years ago, a game 7 against Las Vegas, and we were behind 3-0 with about 10 minutes to go, and we came from behind and won that game in overtime, and I lost my mind when the game was over. So it depends what the scenario is and how important the game is, and usually the big playoff games are the ones where you get the most enthusiastic, and that's where the calls are usually remembered the longest.
What is your memorable moment covering the Sharks?
Probably 2. My most memorable, which I think is still the biggest goal in Sharks history, was scored in 1994 by Jamie Baker, who became a broadcast colleague of mine for many years. He's working for the Ottawa Senators now, and he scored the winning goal in Detroit as the Sharks, who were in the playoffs for the first time ever, upset the number 1 seeded Red Wings and eliminated them. He had that winning goal, and it was absolutely incredible, and it was one of those few moments in time with the Sharks that there were tears in my eyes. Also, when the Sharks went to the Stanley Cup final and eliminated St. Louis in the conference finals, that was very emotional as well, but I wasn't calling that game. It was on the network. And the other one would be the broadcast I just mentioned against Vegas in game 7, when we came from behind in such a dramatic way and won it in overtime against our arch rivals, the Vegas Golden Knights, and that made it even sweeter.
That's wonderful. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook, and my handle is @SharkVoice.
Thank you again, Randy Hahn, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the San Jose Sharks.
Thanks, Brandon. It's great to be with you, and good luck with Brandon Sports Talk, talking all about sports, and we're glad you like talking about hockey too.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Randy Hahn, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.